Hello guys, my name is Saraya Akash and today's topic for my presentation will be comparison between Intel processors and I am going to compare the processors of Core i3, i5 and i7 generation. So there is a confusion right while buying a laptop or a PC that you should buy of which processor. I know many of you will be aware about it, but still today we are going to discuss that which one is better among these three. So before starting it, let us discuss that what is actually a computer processor. So I am going to give a quick overview about it. So a machine that processes something is known as a processor. The processor, also known as the CPU, provides the instructions and processing power the computer needs to do its work. And CPU is nothing but a hardware within a computer system which carries out the instructions of a computer program by performing various arithmetic, logical, and input-output operations. So we could see in this picture that the CPU consists of a control unit, arithmetical, logical unit, a memory unit, and input and output devices are attached with the CPU. So there is an important note that if you are building your first PC, the main thing you need to keep in mind whether it will be a i3, i5 or i7 attached to the family of the Intel Core processors. It basically simply means that it indicates their relative processing power. So what is a processing power? So it is the ability of a computer to manipulate the data, right? They have got nothing to do with the number of cores in each CPU, and it is also not like that i7 processor will have the 7 cores. It will have 4 cores. We will going to see it in detail in the next slides. And i3 also don't have the 3 cores, so we should note it. So what is the concept of generation? So the term generation is applied to Intel processor, which means that new and significant developments in processor architecture or function, like the newer generations will definitely have new features than the previous one. The Intel team is only the one who decide the names of these generations, like second, third, fourth, and so on. So comparison will be based on number of cores, clock speed, turbo boost, cache size, hyper-threading, and at last we will conclude that which one is better. So first one is the number of cores. So what is the core in a processor? So core is a small unit, also known as central processing unit, which is responsible for executing our computational tasks. The core is a collection of one or more identical processor cores installed together in a single IC chip. For example, a dual core will have 2 CPUs, a quad core has 4 CPU, and an octa core will have 8 CPUs. So the number of cores inside an Intel Core CPU isn't everything. Like it is not only the one factor. The more cores are there, definitely we will can perform the more tasks. This means that a PC with higher core count is going to be better for tasks where multi-threading is important, such as web servers, web browsers, and some video games. So now the Core i3 processors have 2 cores, while Core i5 and i7 have 4 CPUs. So now let us discuss about the clock speed. So clock speed of a processor is determined by the clock cycle. Now what is a clock cycle? So the clock cycle is the amount of time between two pulses of an oscillator, right? Higher the clock speed, the faster the processor will be execute to tasks. So clock speed is measured in megahertz or gigahertz, for example 2.3 gigahertz or 3.4 gigahertz. So in general, a higher clock speed is better. However, due to the thermal issues involved, processors with more cores tend to operate at a lower clock speed. Oftentimes, choosing a CPU involves choosing between a CPU capable of delivering faster clock speeds or choosing one with more cores. So like we have to decide the core which can do both the things, like it should have also more cores and it should also deliver faster clock cycle. So in this image, we could see that the Intel Core i3 have a clock speed range between 3.4 GHz to 4.2 GHz. Core i5 have 2.4 to 3.8 and Core i7 have 2.9 to 4.2. So you can see the range of i7. It has 4 cores, so therefore it is very much variable. Like see, it can go from 2.9 to 4.2. Thus it clearly states that Core i7 outperforms Core i3 and i5. Now let us talk about the Intel Turbo Boost. So the Intel Turbo Boost allows a processor to dynamically increase its clock speed whenever the need arises. Maximum out that turbo boost can raise the clock speed at any given time is dependent on many much factors like it needs to check these factors like number of active cores, the estimated current consumption, the estimated power consumption, and the processor temperature. Now the Core i3 does not have any turbo boost, but the i5 and i7 do. Turbo boost dynamically increases the clock speed of Core i7 and i processor whenever it required, which I mentioned earlier. So now let us talk about the cache size, and it is also an important factor. So a processor performance is not determined only by the clock speed, but it is depend on other factors such as cache memory size. So whenever a CPU finds that it keeps on using the same data over and over, it stores the data in a cache. So that CPU does not need to refer to the main memory every time. A CPU's cache is just like RAM, only faster since it's built into the CPU itself. Now both your computer's RAM and its CPU cache serve as holding areas for frequently used data. In cache memory, we are going to store only those data which is frequently used. Without them, the CPU would have to keep on relying on your hard disk for every time, which would slow everything down and cause even simple tasks to take a lot longer. Now, the Core i3 chips have 3 to 4 MB of cache size, while i5 have 6 MB, and the Core i7 have 8 MB of cache size. This is also one major reason why i7 outperforms i5 and why i5 outperforms i3 core processor. Now, let us talk about hyperthreading. So, a thread in computing terms is a sequence of programmed instructions that a CPU has to process. In normal circumstances, only one thread can be served by one CPU at a time. If a CPU is of dual core, then supposedly only two threads can be served simultaneously. If your CPU has four cores, it can handle four threads at once. And if your CPU has six, then we are getting an idea, right? So in this image, we are seeing the hyperthreading technology. Without hyperthreading, the processor needs to do the task. It cannot perform tasks simultaneously. It have to perform one by one. But if we have the hyperthreading technology, then processor can perform both the tasks simultaneously at a single time. So a Core i3 with hyperthreading can process two threads per core, which means a total of four threads can run simultaneously, like 2 into 2. Now the Core i5 range does not have hyperthreading, so it can only process four cores. Like each core will perform the task individually. Now i7 processor also have the hyper-threading technology, so it can perform 8 thread as one, like 4 cores. So each core will perform 2 tasks at a time, so 4 into 2. So I have concluded in the image that I core have hyper-threading, and i7 also have hyper-threading, but i5 does not have hyper-threading technology. So let us conclude by a quick summary. Like the number of cores in i3 will have 2 cores, i5 have 4 cores, and i7 also have 4 cores. The clock speed range is 3.4 to 4.2 in i3 core. Core i5 have 2.4 to 3.8, while Core i7 have a very much variable clock speed range, like from 2.9 to 4.2 gigahertz. Now about hyperthreading technology, that yes, Core i5 and i7 have that technology, but Core i3 does not have. Turbo Boost Core i3 yes have Turbo Boost technology, and i7 also have, but i5 does not have it. And the cache memory of i3 is 3.4, i5 is 6 MB, and i7 have 8 MB of cache memory. So let us conclude that which processor should be there in your PC or laptop. So if you do a lot of things at the same time on a PC, then it might be worth forking out the extra cache. Like you can pay extra cache for buying a laptop which have the i7 processor. Now gamers in particular will want to opt for an i7. It's always better to sit closer to the recommended system requirements than its minimum system requirement. However, if you only use your PC to check emails, do some banking, read the news, and download a bit of music, like you are not very much using the PC or laptop, then it's probably going to be okay with the cheaper i5 or i3. Like it will be very much useful for them. That's it. Thank you. That was all from my side.